85,000 unsold SUVs, 700 days on dealer lots, and the same dealerships that charged you $20,000 over sticker in 2022 are now begging you to walk through the door. For 3 years, they treated you like you were doing them a favor by handing over your money. Now they're bleeding $50 a day per vehicle in floor plan interest on trucks nobody wants. The power just shifted. And the dealers who clicked on this video, they're about to have a very bad day. What actually happens in the back room? Let me tell you about a guy. Let's call him David. Real person, real story. Details changed because he asked me to. David walked into a dealership in Houston last year to buy a midsize SUV. He'd done his research. He negotiated hard on the sales floor for 2 hours. Got the price down $3,000 from sticker. Felt great about it. Shook the salesman's hand, thought the hard part was over. Then they walked him into a small room in the back of the dealership. A desk, a computer, a smiling man in a polo shirt who introduced himself as the finance manager. And in the next 45 minutes, every dollar David had negotiated off the price was quietly added back, and then some. Sound familiar? If you've ever bought a car from a dealership, you already know that room. That room is the finance and insurance office, and it's the single most profitable square footage in the entire building. The negotiation you spent 2 hours fighting through on the sales floor, that was the opening act. The real show happens in the back, and most buyers don't even realize they're watching it. Here's exactly what happened to David, and what happens to millions of buyers every year. The finance manager ran David's credit and got a response from a lender. 5.2% interest rate approved. Good credit, fair rate. But the finance manager didn't tell David that number. He told David the best rate he could find was 7.9%. That 2.7% difference on a $42,000 loan over 72 months. Roughly $4,100 in extra interest that went straight into the dealership's pocket. David never saw it as a fee. It was just baked into the rate. And unless you walk in with a pre-approval letter from your own bank, you will never know your real rate exists. A former finance manager from a Ford dealership in Dallas, who left the industry in 2024, told an automotive journalist, "The rate markup was our biggest profit center, bigger than the car itself, and customers never questioned it because they didn't know to question it. We've all been there. You know what comes next." After the rate was locked, the finance manager started the second act, paint protection. $899, fabric guard, $499, VIN etching, $399, nitrogen-filled tires, $199. Each one presented as essential, each one described as already installed on the vehicle. David said no to 2 of them. The manager's face changed. The friendly tone disappeared. He told David the loan required the warranty package. That's a lie. And the FTC knows it's a lie because they investigated Asbury Automotive Group and found that 75% of their contracts had add-ons stacked on without the buyer's clear consent. Here's what those products actually cost the dealer. VIN etching, $5 acid stencil kit, sold to you for $399. Paint sealant, $30 wax job, sold for $899. Nitrogen in your tires? The air you breathe is already 78% nitrogen. You're paying $199 for the other 22%. The National Consumer Law Center analyzed 3 million warranty sales and found average markups exceeding 300%. Combined, these add-ons cost the dealer $50 to $200. They charge you $1,500 to $4,500. That's not a markup. That's a heist conducted in an office chair with a smile and a pen. And here's the twist nobody expects. If you pay cash, it's worse. You'd think cash gives you power. It doesn't. Dealerships make more money financing your car than selling it. Cash eliminates the rate markup, the lender incentives, and the chance to bury add-ons in monthly payments. Cash buyers report being treated worse, slower service, less flexibility, open hostility. The dealership doesn't want your money. They want your loan. Has that ever happened to you? Drop it in the comments, because I guarantee you're not alone. But the finance office is just one room. Wait until you see the math on what you're actually paying for the SUV itself, because these numbers should make anyone with a mortgage genuinely angry. The numbers that should keep you up at night. I talked to a family in Phoenix, husband, wife, 2 kids, who bought a 2024 midsize SUV 18 months ago. They thought they got a fair deal. They're now paying $815 a month for 84 months on a vehicle that's worth $12,000 less than what they owe on it. They can't sell it. They can't trade it. They're trapped in a loan on a vehicle that's losing value faster than they can pay it down. And they had no idea this would happen when they signed. They're not unusual, they're average, and the numbers prove it. $750. That's the average monthly payment on a new SUV in the United States right now. Not a luxury SUV, not a loaded Escalade, the average. For a vehicle that depreciates the moment you drive it off the lot, does that number feel normal to you? Because it shouldn't. 5 years ago, the average was $550, 84 months. The standard loan term has quietly stretched from 60 to 72 and is now pushing 84 as the new normal, with 96-month loans appearing at some lenders. That's an 8-year commitment on a vehicle that will need major maintenance before the loan is half paid. You're making payments on brakes, tires, and suspension work, while still owing more than the SUV is worth. That's not ownership. That's a subscription to a depreciating liability. $70,000, the average transaction price of a new full-size SUV. In 2019, that number was $47,000. That's $23,000 more in 7 years, a 49% jump. Meanwhile, median household income grew roughly 20%. The SUV didn't get 49% better, it got 49% more expensive. And the dealer's solution to that gap isn't lowering the price. It's extending the loan until the monthly payment looks survivable, and hoping you don't do the total cost math. Here's the trap those numbers create. And if you own an SUV right now, this might hit close to home. $70,000 SUV, $5,000 down, 7% over 84 months. Monthly payment, roughly $970. After 2 years, you've paid over $23,000. The SUV is worth approximately $45,000. You still owe $52,000. You're $7,000 underwater. If you need to sell, you write a check to cover the gap. If you trade, the dealer rolls that negative equity into the next loan, making the next vehicle even more expensive and even more underwater from day one. Rinse, repeat. The cycle never ends until someone breaks it, and the dealership is counting on you not understanding this math. Because the moment you do, you'll never sign an 84-month loan again. And they know it. And that's your math as a buyer. Now let me show you the dealer's math, because their nightmare is even worse than yours, and honestly, watching it unfold is the most satisfying thing I've covered all year. The dealers are drowning, and they did it to themselves. This is the part of the video where the tone changes, because everything above was about how they scammed you. This section is about how the scam is finally catching up with them, and I'm not going to pretend I'm not enjoying every second of it. Start with the inventory, because inventory is the one thing a dealer cannot hide, cannot spin, and cannot talk their way out of. CarEdge data shows 2023 and 2024 model year SUVs still sitting unsold on dealer lots in mid-2026. Not 2025 leftovers, vehicles from 2 and 3 years ago. The Dodge Charger, 385 days on the lot. The Jeep Grand Wagoneer, 428 days. GM slashed $27,500 off the Sierra EV, and it's still sitting at 225 days of unsold inventory. Stellantis alone has over 85,000 unsold vehicles nationwide. These SUVs aren't waiting for the right buyer. They're waiting for any buyer, at any price. Now here's the number that makes dealers sweat at night. Every unsold vehicle on the lot costs the dealership roughly $40 to $50 per day in floor plan interest. The loan the dealer took out to buy the inventory from the manufacturer, that interest compounds. Insurance continues, the vehicle depreciates daily. A vehicle sitting for 400 days has eaten roughly $20,000 in carrying costs before a single buyer walks through the door. The dealer hasn't made a penny on that SUV. They've lost $20,000 just by owning it. Remember 2021 and 2022, the chip shortage? Lots were empty, buyers were desperate, and dealers charged whatever they wanted because supply was non-existent. Well, manufacturers watched those inflated revenues and did what manufacturers always do. They ramped up production. More factories, more shifts, more parts orders. And by the time those expanded lines were running at full capacity, demand had already cooled. The result? Open Google Earth and search for factory storage yards near any major auto plant: Kentucky Truck Plant, Sterling Heights Assembly, Wentzville. And you'll see fields the size of football stadiums packed with brand new trucks lined up in rows so tight they look like circuit boards from above. Thousands of vehicles that dealers refuse to accept because the last shipment is still sitting on the showroom floor. A dealer in Michigan who asked to remain anonymous told an automotive blogger, "I have 2023 models on my lot right now, in 2026. I'm paying interest on trucks that were old before anyone test drove them. And now the defaults are climbing." Borrowers who stretched into 84-month loans at $750 per month are missing payments as budgets tighten. Repos hitting auction markets add even more supply to a pool that's already overflowing. Lenders are tightening loan-to-value ratios. The old trick of rolling negative equity into the next deal is getting harder because banks are finally saying no. Customers can't trade up, dealers can't move new inventory. The entire churn cycle that kept dealerships profitable for decades is seizing up. You know what that sounds like? It sounds like karma wearing a spreadsheet. And the best part is coming, because the dealers who were untouchable 3 years ago are now begging for your business. And it's poetic. The justice moment. Karma looks beautiful on a balance sheet. Do you remember what it felt like to walk into a dealership in 2022? I do, and it still makes me angry. The salesperson didn't negotiate, they didn't need to. The lot was empty, the waiting list was months long. And the market adjustment sticker, $5,000, $10,000, sometimes $20,000 over MSRP, was non-negotiable, take it or leave it. Some dealers sold SUVs for $15,000 over sticker and laughed while the buyer signed the paperwork. Online forums from that era read like hostage negotiations, people begging for allocations, paying deposits on vehicles they'd never seen, accepting whatever color was available because saying no meant starting over at the back of a 6-month line. One buyer in a Jeep forum described paying a $12,000 market adjustment on a Wrangler in 2022, only to watch the same dealer offer $8,000 off MSRP on the identical model 18 months later. That buyer is still making payments on the overpriced version while the discounted one sits unsold on the same lot. If that doesn't capture the entire dealership scam in a single story, nothing does. Another dealer in Florida, a luxury brand, bragged publicly on social media about a $25,000 markup on an SUV in early 2022. That same dealership is now running employee pricing for everyone ads on local television. The same truck, the same lot, no markup, no waiting list. Just a sales manager staring at a floor plan statement and wondering how long the lights stay on. The same dealerships that wouldn't return your phone call in 2022 are now running radio ads begging you to come in. The same finance managers who said the warranty was required are now waiving the doc fee. The same general managers who approved $20,000 markups are now approving $8,000 to $15,000 below MSRP just to move metal before the floor plan interest devours what's left. And the structural pressure isn't temporary. Tesla and Rivian proved that the direct-to-consumer model works. No markup, no finance games, no add-ons buried in contracts. The price online is the price you pay. Once a buyer experiences that kind of transparency, going back to a 3-hour dealership grind feels like stepping backward into a system designed to extract money from people who didn't know they were being extracted from. Carvana and online platforms have trained an entire generation to expect honest pricing. The dealer model that depends on knowing more than the buyer is being dismantled by the internet. One Reddit thread at a time, so you know the scam. You've seen the math. You've watched the dealers drown in their own inventory. Now here's the part you actually need. Exactly how to win when you walk through that door. The Playbook. How to save $15,000 on your next SUV. Everything above was the problem. This section is your weapon. 5 moves, each one tested by buyers who've used them in 2026 and saved thousands. I'm going to keep these tight and practical because you don't need a lecture, you need a checklist. Move 1, walk in with a pre-approval letter, not on your phone. A physical letter from your bank or credit union with the rate, the amount, and the lender's name. When the finance manager sees that letter, the rate markup game is over. They can try to beat your rate. Great, that helps you. But they can no longer inflate it and pretend it's the best available. One buyer in Colorado walked in pre-approved at 4.9%. The dealer initially offered 8.1%. The pre-approval letter dropped their offer to 4.7% in under 5 minutes. That difference saved him over $5,000 in interest. 5 minutes, one letter, $5,000, move 2. Refuse every add-on by default, every. Single 1, paint protection, fabric guard, VIN etching, nitrogen tires, extended warranty, GAP insurance. If the finance manager says the warranty is required, that is a lie. If they say the loan won't be approved without GAP, also a lie. You can buy these independently for a fraction of the price. GAP from a credit union costs $200 to $400. The dealer charges $700 to $1,200. Same product, triple the price. And the FTC has sent warning letters to 97 dealership groups since March 2026, specifically about unauthorized add-on practices, 97. This isn't a few bad apples, it's an orchard. Move 3, negotiate the total out-the-door price, never the monthly payment. This is the single most important sentence you will ever say in a dealership. What is the total out-the-door price? When you negotiate monthly payments, the dealer controls every variable, term rate, add-ons, and can hit any number you give them while keeping their profit intact. When you negotiate total price, there's nowhere to hide. A friend of mine saved $3,200 with this single question, because the dealer had extended her loan from 60 to 84 months without telling her to keep the monthly payment the same. The total cost was $8,000 higher. She caught it because she asked the right question. Move 4. Wait. I know, hardest advice. But the 2026 and 2027 market is getting more buyer-friendly every single month. Inventory climbing, incentives expanding, dealer desperation deepening. September and October are historically the best months. Dealers need to clear current year stock before new models arrive. Every month you wait, their carrying cost rises and their willingness to negotiate increases. Patience doesn't just save money. Patience saves $10,000 to $15,000 compared to buying in January on impulse. Move 5. Walk out. The most powerful negotiating tool you have isn't information, preparation, or a pre-approval letter. It's your legs. A dealership that watches you stand up and walk toward the door will call you within 24 hours, roughly 80% of the time, with a better offer. The buyers who get destroyed in dealerships are the ones who feel obligated to finish what they started. You're not obligated to do anything. The dealer needs your money more than you need their SUV. In 2026, that has never been more true. For 3 years, dealerships held all the power. They charged whatever they wanted. They buried fees in contracts. They treated you like an inconvenience with a checkbook, and they got away with it because supply was tight and you had no choice. Those days are dead. The lots are overflowing. The factories can't stop shipping. The floor plan interest is bleeding them dry, and the finance office tricks that worked when you had no leverage are falling apart now that you can walk across the street to a competitor sitting on 400 days of unsold inventory and a finance manager who hasn't hit his number in 3 months. You have the power now. Use it. Do you think dealerships are finally getting what they deserve? Drop your worst dealership horror story in the comments. We read every single one. And subscribe, because the next video breaks down which specific SUV brands have the worst dealer markups, and the data will change how you negotiate forever.